Welcome to the only wrestling podcast that covers the WWE developmental system from its inception to modern day. From OVW to MCW, the HWA, Deep South, FCW, and much more. Hosted by Brian Asbury and Mortimer Blankenship. Now let's dive into what could have been, what should have been. Welcome to Developmentally Speaking.
Hey, before we get in this episode, can you do us a favor? Will you go ahead and subscribe to the channel?
Will you ring that notification bell?
And if you would, give this video a like. Well, enough of that mumbo jumbo. Let's get to the episode.
Let's talk developmentally speaking, glow up, and connecting through wrestling.
Hey everybody, I'm Morty.
And I'm Brian.
And on today's episode of Developmentally Speaking, we have Timmy Baltimore. Timmy, how's it going?
Man, I can't call it. It's great to be amongst you guys. It's like a little slice of one of the, if not the greatest time in my life, which was, go figure, no offense to Louisville or Indiana, but I never thought in my life that I'd spend time there, live there, and also have the greatest time of my life there. So seeing you guys, and I've been doing my due diligence on your show a bit. It's pretty cool to see that you grew up on OVW. You grew up on this stuff, and now you're going back and doing what is so cool. And someone was bound to do it. So I'm glad you guys were first to the river on that. And you're kind of giving the due and proper to the people that came through, and you're doing it smart. You're doing it like cops, because you got a Timmy Baltimore. Now people are like, hey, Timmy Baltimore, who gives a shit, you know? But if they knew, they would. Trust me, I know where all the bodies are. But you do like cops, you know? You get like a street level dealer like me. You flip me, and then you reel in the bigger names, like the Mickeys of the world, right? It's a good policy. But I think you guys are gonna do great. I think it's a great show.
Thank you.
I think you need to get pushier with the guests. I watch not so much softball. I watched the Jacob Duncan interview. I'm like, man, ask him why he got fired. What, get on us, man. Don't be scared. This is wrestling. There's enough ego masturbatory BS. We need to have our chins checked occasionally.
Okay.
So.
Well, take it away, Morty.
All right, so.
And see, that
pushy.
shit also, we got to kill that dead air shit.
Yes.
You got to kill that. Yeah, when we're going to, if you're posing a question, and this is just, the only reason I know this stuff is because I had to do this, in wrestling form, right? So it would be if you're posing a question, you ask Jacob Duncan a question, you go, so when you got to Impact, were there any plans for you, and that's tough to answer. You're setting them up to be what? As opposed to, whatever, 2004, you debuted in Impact. What were their plans for you? And just let them run with it, right? Otherwise, you get the weird, and you guys are so polite, you don't want to make sure that the talent is finished before you say something. And that's very admirable. But you guys are running an effing show here, man. You gotta keep, dead air is your worst enemy. And all you can make, yes, give it to him.
Right, I understand that. But who was it I kept cutting off? I was trying to get rid of dead air, and I kept cutting somebody off. And afterwards, you're like, man, you freaking cut him off like 8 times. I'm like, what? Shit, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, cut him off. He can deal with it. If he can't, he's in the wrong racket.
Absolutely.
Feeling you know what I mean? This is and that's the other thing too. It's not easy. Hosting and saying things from here to here, no time, no filter. Man, it takes a certain kind of talent, and sometimes there's a argument for, well, you're born with it, or I think you're born with it to a degree, and it can be nurtured.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I see you guys, and I see, man, these guys are passionate about a period in time in my life that was super special to me. What years? Like, how old were you when you were coming to OVW?
Oh man, I probably started when I was what 10ish, 10.
Yeah, so we always got it in Seymour because RIP.
Yeah.
They always ensured that, like, I think the line was it aired all the way up to Seymour, like up north.
Cincinnati was towards the end, they said,
Yeah.
but they may have just been lying to us. I don't know. But what year was that?
So the half an hour TV shows were in 98, 99, and then 2000. So like my main would be like 2002 and like 2005. It was like WB7, Hello Kentuckiana every Saturday night. Like it's burned in my brain. Like just everything. Big Wig Pizza, just like OVW is like burned in my brain. You get drawn, you sit in the big comfy chair to eat the Big Wick during OVW, like all kinds, like weekly.
The Wick's Pizza Party Zone.
Yeah. See, I wish I had the memory he does. He has the memory that remembers all those details. Me, I remember it and what it was and how much I enjoyed it, but I couldn't remember stuff like the Big Wick and stuff like that. But mine is I watched the TV show, but I really enjoyed the live stuff that they would bring to Seymour because that was my wrestling, my live exposure to wrestling. Because I didn't go to a WWE show until I paid for my own ticket at Ball State University and watched a house show. I think the main event was Undertaker versus Kofi. And it was a squash match.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember that.
That's a really weird main event, isn't it?
Yeah. It was really weird. But so what made you get into wrestling?
It's funny you asked that. So I went to a show one time with a buddy of mine, and I was standing against the guardrail, and somebody, I can't remember who, came up to me and said, "Hold on real quick. Someone wants to talk to you." So I waited there, and out comes Hulk Hogan. And he looks at me and he goes, "Brother, we can bill you as Andre's son. You're 7 foot." No, I think that's Big Show's story. Stupid ass Big Show story. Who gives a shit how I got into wrestling? I fell out of bed and I did it. No, man, shoot. I loved it. I was spinal cord injury when I was 5. So you got 33 vertebrae in your neck. When I was 5, I broke 7. In 2017, I broke 2 more in my neck this time. And, being laid up in a hospital and recovering, cartoons and wrestling and Ninja Turtles. But wrestling hooked me just like it hooked you guys. Like, no, there was just like real life superheroes, and oh my God, we didn't have territorial wrestling in Baltimore, but NWA, WCW, and WWF at the time did come through. So I started watching when I was 7 in 1990, and then did what I'm sure you guys did, the retroactive thing, like going to Blockbuster, getting anything, or the video store, getting everything.
Oh yeah.
Till you memorize them, right? And you're just like blown away that this world is a real thing in the universe, that it exists. Who are these people? What do they do? Do they have wives? Do they have dogs? Like, what do they do? I was so just...
Yeah, I couldn't wait. Like, whenever I'd get sick, like, I would love getting sick and staying home from school, because my mom would always go to the store or to the movie rental place and rent 2 or 3 old pay-per-views, and I get to watch them. And oh man, that was just the best.
What was your favorite event? Like, do you remember which one you like?
Man,
wore
any
the
of
trim off?
any Royal Rumbles, man. Like,
Yeah.
that's why the Rumble is behind me. This is a Rumble poster. It's the only one we have. And I said put it behind me because I love the Rumble.
How about you, Brian?
I've always been a SummerSlam and Survivor Series guy. There's always been, I think, more Survivor Series just because of the teaming aspect. I loved it.
Old school Survivor Series. Yeah.
You like a good, boring 8-man tag team match with just shotgun finishes towards the end and just a bunch of arm wringers in the middle?
Love it.
You must be a sadist.
Yeah.
So anyway, I when I I would get so into things as a kid. Like I was that kid, and I'm sure you guys can relate. Just so into, like, more than other kids got into a thing. And um, when uh, when I broke my back as a child, like I was paralyzed, and I'm talking like lived in the hospitals for years and years, but then kind of resumed to normal, as much of a normal life as possible. And it was like evolution of the GIMP. So I was like in a hospital bed, in a wheelchair, and you can laugh, it's okay. And, in the outriggers, and then in the cane, and um, I never, I knew my circumstances were different, but I was a tough son of a bitch, and it would be really hard to tell me I couldn't do something. So I go to the Baltimore Arena at a WCW house show in '99, and I'm like 16, 17. I get a flyer for a wrestling school in Baltimore called Bone Breakers, very original. And, and I go, um, oh my God, like this is a thing here in Baltimore. Um, and so they had a fantasy camp, which was just a money grab, and like you pay $100 to go bump in a ring. And I think Orlando Jordan said, "I was on the Olympics almost," and then that was the camp. Um, so, but I was more than happy. I was like, "Oh my God, this is great!" And so I go to the camp, and um, I was like, I'm doing it. I got to do it one way or another. I got to do it. So when I graduated high school, that was like my graduation present was the tuition. And I walk in there, and they're like, the owner, Dan McDevitt is the owner of MCW, which was the school, the promotion now in Baltimore as well. They've been up and running for 20 years. Great promotion. Um, he was running it back then, and you get this handicapped kid walking into your wrestling school. You're going, Jesus Christ, we got to call the lawyers and make sure, like, make sure this shit's on the level. So I mean, they couldn't throw that waiver in my face fast enough with like a notary, but I paid him cold hard cash, and I was the first. So then I had another surgery in the middle there that went really poorly. They put rods back in my back, and really messed me up. Put me in, I was on like life support for like 3 weeks, conscious, strapped down with the tube in my throat. And after 10 days, you go nuts, bro. You go nuts. So I somehow kicked out of that. And when I did, it was like, man, I got to go for it again. So I went back to school, and time they opened to the time they closed. They couldn't get rid of me. And I was learning to bump, learning to chain, learning everything that I could, but I was very limited. And so it became obvious with how much I love it. I go, okay, I can either get in my own way and be like, no, I'm going to wrestle and make things impossible for everyone, or I can find a way, right? What's the way I can find? Well, I can manage, and that's where the lane I started to take. However, as a manager, when you're green and when you're physically disabled, they don't know, like, they don't know what to do with you. They had no idea what to do with me. They didn't want to do anything with me because I was the shits. I didn't know yet. And thank God I was fortunate enough that one person, because MCW was like a midway point for a lot of good independent talent, I became very, very close with Joey Matthews, Mercury, Christian York, Julio De Niro, and Mickey James. And Mickey was the first one. She took a shine to me, and she pushes for the underdog. So she, and still to this day does, with me. She had a girls match. Back then there wasn't a lot of girls that were working, so it was her and this other girl named Bobby Joe, a wrestler named Persephone. They would take this girls match they had around the loop, around the Northeast and down south. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to have you manage her as the heel manager so you can learn what the hell to do out there. And, she drove, no expenses really, even cut me out a few bucks whenever they got paid. It was about the most solid thing anybody's ever done for me in my life. And through that, I learned what it really was in front of an audience. It's you can sit back there and you can watch all day long for years and years, but until you're on that inside, you don't know certain things. So yeah, that's basically how I got in. And then MCW, the Maryland company, still didn't know what to do with me, didn't really use me. So I had a choice. I can either like beat down this door, or I can go somewhere else and try to get my value up.
Mm-hmm.
How bad do I want this?
Mm-hmm.
So I ran around during college on the weekends to do like PW Pro Wrestling Unplugged for the Backseat Boys and Delaware, like anywhere I'd make contacts along the way, and I managed and I did anything I could. Very little commentary though at first, but yeah, that's how I started.
How did you get down to Louisville?
Man, oh man, like so. Um, it was the wrestling dream was something my family was kind of like, that's crazy. You're just like, it's just they were trying to wrap their head around it, but it became a lot more plausible when all of a sudden people that were staying the night at our house and crashing were all of a sudden showing up on SmackDown, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is real. I'm like, yeah. So Mickey James got signed in '04, I believe. And Joey followed her down, or went down with her. Like stalker, they were a couple at the time. And I was kind of like, it was good for me though. I was left on my own to like, how bad do I want it now that I don't have big brother and big sister there politicking for me? I got to make the calls now. I got to do all that. And I did. I started working for AFA, which was really hard to get into at the time, which is strange because he didn't pay shit. But it was good because you'd work for AFA, and he ran shows once a week. So I said, what do I want? Like, what do I want? I want to work for WWE. That's what I want. Where's it happening? Where's this going down? If I were I'd move to Chicago or New York or LA. But where was it going down for WWE? Louisville, Kentucky. Straight up. Excuse me. So I said, on $1 and a dream, I'm packing up. I got my college degree and I'm moving to Louisville, and I didn't really have much of a plan. I just had the knowledge that I had a couple friends there, but my friends were on the road. So it was just going to be me. And I just said, if I just figure out a way, just a little way in, just an angle in there to squeeze in there, and I keep showing up, something will happen. They're either going to not be able to get rid of me, or they're going to like me. And so that's what I did. I got down there, and it took me. You didn't ask this part. Can I keep going?
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Because I got to tell you guys.
you.
You know what? You know what the guests love doing? Talking about themselves.
Yeah.
Which is good because that's what this episode is about.
Clock, or are you looking at the camera? What are you looking at?
Oh.
Is that the camera?
Okay, so we have this issue where the camera is slightly below our. We have a TV monitor behind the camera.
Okay, so you're watching the TV monitor.
Yeah.
What's it look like I'm doing? Am I looking sneaky?
You're just there, man. You're just there.
I'm just there, man.
Just up there, man. Up there.
So I get to OVW. I got there the day Eddie Guerrero died, which was fucking sad.
Yeah.
Because I've been in contact with Tommy Dreamer. Like, I was doing weird shit, man. Like, I saw the people around me that were making it, and I saw that what they were doing was they called people. They called WWE. They called and built a rapport. I was in no way, shape, or form ready or anything for that, for Tommy Dreamer to book me for anything. But still, I call him, whatever, And sure enough, I get down. He said, "Hey, when you get down to Louisville, call me the day you get down there." So I got down there, and it was the day Eddie died, and it was just like, oh. And so I had to call him, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I know this timing is just awful, but just checking in." And so I got down there, gentlemen, on it was towards the we were fixing to hit the twilight of the Paul Heyman era, where right before the WWE CW started, and at the end, it was like when Albright and Punk were finishing up, Spirit Squad was going up, and it was kind of like that new roster of Cody and Spears and Cliff Compton and Deuce and Fearless Jack Bull and Roadkill and all those guys. Cruel. So, but before then, like, I got in there and man, something that happened where I started showing up to the house shows, and there were no announcers really that were showing up to every house show, so that helped my cause. And then I forget if something happened where I introduced myself to Danny finally, and he did the thing like where he's in a rush and didn't have time to talk to me. Like, what? I'm like, hey Dan, I came down from Baltimore. Joey and Nikki may have said, yeah, okay, what? Well, I just, I'd love to, any opportunities available. What can you do? Everything except wrestle. Can you ring announce? Yeah, okay. Nothing physical, ever. And he walked away. I was like, okay, shit. So I ring announced, and then I learned a valuable trick, gentlemen. I did the ring announcing one time and did well with it, I thought, or he thought. And when he said, good job, I said, cool. Can I announce the dark matches? Like, call them, commentate them. He's like, so whenever I did something good, I'd ask for more.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, not yet, but you can call the amateur show. So I get to it was Rip's students. I was like, amateur show?
Is he talking about
He's saying to see
DCW?
amateurs, right?
Is that DCW?
It was before DCW.
Okay. All
It was right. It was about a year before DCW.
Okay.
And they called them amateur shows. So I was like, we're going to call it the Future Talent Showcase. And if anyone else says they made that up, they're full of shit. So I did okay there. And then I was like, now can I call the darks? Because the dark matches that they had at OVW went up to the writers. And if Vince had his eye on somebody or Kevin Dunn did, they would hear that. Now, I didn't, I hadn't done commentary that long at that point. But in that moment, I go, okay, if this is my end, I'm going to become the best young commentator in the game. I mean, I'm going to dissect everything I do. I'm going to come to every class. So, bro, I was like a weasel in a good term. Like, I attended Rip's classes, attended Al's classes, attended every TV, never paid a dime. Never paid a dime. And it came down to, like, also, like, Al, during promo days, the guys loved having me there because I was short. I was like a Mean Gene kind of guy to interview them and to bounce shit off of for promos. So I was like, this is great. This gets me in front of, eventually these writers in WWE and everybody are going to be asking, who's this little handicapped motherfucker with the wrestlers? And I mean, it took a long time for that. And, you'd hear so much shit in the politics, like that the writers and everybody else would mute commentary because they couldn't stand Kenny or they couldn't stand Dean, and which I think is unfair because I thought both of those men in their own ways were great. So
yeah, I'm about to say, I don't know how anybody couldn't like either one of them when it comes to what they do. Like, because, Dean is, when I think of OVW, I hear him talking. I don't know.
When I think of Dean Hale, I think of him flipping off Johnny G.
Greatest moment in OVW history, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, greatest moment. He said, oh, he said, I coach my kids softball. Fuck you, Johnny G. I He just said something about his kid's softball. Oh my God. For this bullshit. No, Al. No. Fuck you, Johnny. Oh my God. Bro, it's so. And then he walked away, if you remember, and turned right back around and goes, fuck. Like, beautiful.
So good.
It's so good, man. And Johnny Deere's just sitting there. So good. But that's the thing. Why it works so well is like, if you're with this thing that we do in commentary, one of your job, like, there's a few facets to it that I've learned through the years is and not a lot of people are eager to teach you because they want to protect their spots. Jim Ross was never too kind to me. You know, Michael Cole not too kind to me. None of these motherfuckers were. So you have to learn what you can. And one of the ways I'd see the mistakes people make are they're getting themselves over, or they think it's about either talking about themselves or talking about their angles. It's not how you get over as a commentator. You can get over as a commentator, but you get over by getting the other person over. How you get them over. God is my witness, he's broken in half. Mm-hmm. JR's over for that soundbite alone. But he's not talking about JR. He's talking about Mick Foley. The other, it's like narrating the story that the boys are telling in the ring is I think, a big one. And the other part is they got to trust you, bro. They got to trust you. Look at Dean Hill. Do you trust anybody more than Dean Hill? So that's why I thought, welcome fans to the OVW, grab him by the hair of the head. He would always say, grab him by the hair of the head, right in the 10 ring. Right in the 10 ring. I used to love when he'd say, when he would talk about it was going to be a cage match, but he wouldn't be like, they're going to duel it out in the cage. He goes, December 10th, right here at the Davis Arena. We're going to build the cage. Like, building the cage was the draw, not the actual cage.
Yeah.
Going out. We're going to build the cage. Then we're all going to go home.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he was great. Kenny Bolin gets a bad rap, probably for good reasons, but he was, God, man, he made me good. He made me good at banter, like that banter, that back and forth, where I had to like loosen up and not be so serious and who's watching and lose my announcer voice, and like he was so good with me with that, and shit.
Yeah, Kenny was one of my
a great desk.
Yeah, Kenny was one of my inspirations to be a manager. So I remember him managing Mark Henry here in Seymour, and my dad hated both of them, and but just from the reaction that they got from my father made me want to do that. That sounds really messed up, but it was just it's like I want to do that. If I can get this reaction out of people, it'd be awesome. And I'd like to say that I've got that reaction out of quite a few people. I've been hated by quite a few. So
you've almost killed a man with Axe body spray.
I did almost kill a guy with Axe body spray on accident one time.
Okay, we don't leave it there.
Yeah, just leave it hang. Just let it hang there. No, this was early on in my wrestling career, and I was managing a tag team called Big and Tasty, and it was Mike Trusty and Sweet William Valentine, and they would come to the ring, and their manager would, because they had a manager before me, of course, a couple.
Two managers?
No, before me, before I became their manager.
Okay.
They would spray Axe body spray, like that was their thing, and when they won the match, I turned around and was like, yeah, and sprayed it in the air a little bit.
Unloaded the can.
I didn't unload the can. It was just a little bit. And a guy in the front row had a friggin' asthma attack.
He dropped
to the
grabbing. This is the most dramatic thing.
They had to run.
Call an ambulance.
Yeah, people picked him up and ran him outside. It's my second show I ever did, and I'm just like, I killed a guy. I'm done. I'll never be able to do it again.
I don't know if that's the kind of heat you're looking for.
I don't think it was.
Um,
But yeah,
yeah, I
it was
mean,
crazy.
so did you train at OVW?
No, I trained at Supreme Championship Wrestling in Madison, Indiana.
Okay, okay. You know, I think about like how lucky I was, like in this. You talked about like how to get to OVW, and it was like taking that leap of faith and um, knowing, like I knew, like get there or die trying. I knew, and I mean, I was the last one to get signed after the circus left town in February 2008. I didn't get the call till April, and it was like how fortunate I feel because there's this brief period of time where I mean I got to spend 3 years, 4 years with Danny Davis. I mean, Danny is just you know unless you spend time with him, it's hard to really encapsulate how smart and what kind of man he is. But it's um, just an incredible man. One of the if you look back at his work, he was just such a tremendous worker too. Smart businessman, obviously. But I got to spend so much time. I get to the arena early to do voiceover, so I got to just kick it with Danny, which was a great spot to be in.
That's
Um,
cool.
Rip Rogers, who I thought hated me. I thought he hated me until like I heard secondhand at that he fucking loved me. I was like, oh my god, oh thank God. He was like, oh Timmy, best announcer I've ever worked with. Doesn't need a script, nothing. I just hand him a line. I was like, I thought you hated me. Um, and Al Snow and Hoot Gibson and Jesus, I'm probably forgetting. Like, but within that small period of time, like, what are the chances that I would get that time there, and I wouldn't be, I'd be just another jabroni if I didn't have that. If I didn't have OVW, that's how I learned to work. I mean, woke up at contract class Monday, Tuesday, non-contract class. I walked the line. I was like that kid in the cafeteria. It was like, hey nerds, hey cool kids, hey, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't a threat. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I could get, the non-contract guys didn't see me as a threat, and I didn't look down on them because I wasn't that stupid. Like shit rolls downhill, but you never know which end of the hill you're going to end up on.
Right.
And contract guys, like I wasn't a threat to them. So some of my lifelong friends have been forged in both of those kind of groups. And,
That's awesome.
I was there calling DCW as well as the first man. I went from the ring announcer in OVW to being the first third man in OVW history, which is a cool little thing. Unless they were lying to me. They may have been lying to me.
No.
But and like it was an honor. Like I worked really hard to get at that desk, bro. Really, really hard. And when I finally did, like you couldn't. Danny was calling me the steamroller because I was just I'm getting my soundbite in, back. I was hitting them left and right. Those old guys had to, they had to get their cardio up because I was there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, wow, what a great time. Wow, what a great time, gang. Anyway, so yeah, we did TV Wednesdays, then Thursdays we did tape day.
Yeah.
Fridays, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday shows. So, and I'm talking like 2005 to 2008. And then when I quit WWE and came back in sometime 2010, it was still going, so I did a little bit there. But it was just go. You lived, you ate it, you slept it, and like I sit here and I go, well, maybe because I did a lot of like partying to the sense that like it was the boys, right? And it was like Fun Time Timmy or fun like we had that kind of relationship. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we'd come in after TV on Wednesdays after going down to like the rib was on 7th Street for about 10 weeks. It was my birthday at different places. And none of the girls ever questioned it, you know? So we'd come in on tape day and they'd want to know the antics like Al and Danny. And for the first few weeks, I was like, am I in trouble? But they want to just laugh. They would just want to get, you know what I mean? They want some interesting shit to happen. And I just, yeah, you know, I was a, you know, catalyst for interesting shit at times. So.
Awesome.
What was the major difference between FCW and OVW? A lot.
Yeah, a lot. I don't ever want to, you know, OVW felt like home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It really did. And a big reason for that was because I grew up a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I got to FCW, I was pretty much fully formed in the sense of not fully. I had a lot to learn, but like it wasn't no kid shit anymore. And
Right.
the weather was better, so much better that I lived in St. Pete, Florida, for about 10 years. After I got to sit in a room day in day out, pick them up in the morning at 7:30 a.m. from the Tampa Hyatt, drive them to FCW's training center, and then drive them back, you know, for a year and some change, 6 days a week, sometimes 60, 80 hours a week with Dusty Rhodes, just he and I. So those infamous Dusty classes, the promo classes, I was the ground floor for that in FCW. Like,
That's amazing.
I can't. There's so much I learned from that man that I don't even realize I learned. And there's right nowadays. I'll do a little this, little that, but locally, MCW Pro Wrestling has a school that has turned out guys like Leo Rush, Persona non grata, but Velveteen Dream came from the school. What's his name? The guy in Hit Row. Not the big guy, the little guy who his name's Tahuti Miles. I can't remember his work name. Adonis, the agriculture guy or some shit. So anyway, I also teach some of those guys that are coming up. I have a promo class with them, and I have it once in a while. And it's all I do is adhere to the Dusty playbook. And he was just, I've never met a man that was so keen and smart at reading people, and he could just read you like a Bible, you know.
That's awesome.
And he was, I mean, it was great, man. Even on a bad day, I'm sitting there chilling with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Even when he was grouchy and crabby, it would still be funny because like fucking Dusty's bitching at me. What is this life? I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, and I had a really, really, really strong bond with him. And when I quit WWE, I have a lot of like some regret and some shame over it, even to this day, because I was through OVW. I got tight with Cody, and I'm still tight with Cody. And and then in turn, when Dusty needed an assistant, I came to mind. You know, I'd gone to the weddings. I'd been like a surrogate family member at times. So, but in my head, my egotistical mind, I wanted to still commentate. I was giving away these gifts that I thought I had in this talent I accumulated to these like interchangeable chicken head models that just would show up. I'd never, you know, didn't know, you know, Macho Man from freaking Aquaman, you know. So it was. I let that get to me, and I shouldn't have. I should have just kept making the money, but it did. I let it get to me. So anyway, the main. But I had a lot of guilt leaving because Dusty, as smart and as strong and solid as he is, he sometimes needed someone to watch his back with things like reports and writing reports and things like that. Because he was a talker, you know? And I feel like when I left, he kind of got left high and dry. And I really feel bad about that. But what's the difference between FCW and OVW? There were too many damn people at FCW, and there were too many different experience levels of, like, you had your OVW guys that were all there and transplanted, a few of them, but they weren't looked at the same as they were in OVW. Just because, you know, Al and Danny loved Mike Cruel, Steve Kern thought he was boring in the shits. And I always felt like I could never fully 100%. I couldn't be myself 100% there because I was a bit of the office, so I couldn't like hang with the boys as much. So if I was like, I'm very close to Sean Spears, Ronnie O'Neill. If he and I wanted to like hang, like I was one of the groomsmen in his wedding. Like wrestling, if wrestling left tomorrow, we'd still be friends. Yeah. So it's like, if I wanted to hang with him, it'd have to be quiet, and it was just like, and I saw what it took to be in that office. You have to keep secrets. You have to, I don't want to say, it just is what it is. That's the job. And I wish I had been a little bit more emotionally mature when I took it. Right. Yeah, but it wasn't much of it. Like, they're both warehouses. Look, here's a little insider scoop. I don't know if you heard this. Steve Kern visited. So there's a rule in wrestling. If you hear that if a place comes forward and goes, guys, we're not shutting down, calm down, they're always shutting down. Yep. So 100% of the time. So there were rumors that WWE was pulling out of OVW because it was Jim Ross and Jim Cornette's baby. It wasn't John Laurinaitis' baby. Right. DSW, Deep South was, but that took a shit and failed. So he wanted to get people to Tampa, Florida. Well, all the signs started happening in late 2007, early 2008, where first we were like, it's almost like, I'm serious, almost like a bad omen. Like, we were visited by the ghosts, like, we were visited by Shawn and Triple H. And, like, they had never come down there, and all of a sudden, there they are, and they're not talking to Al, and they're only talking to a few of us. And I'm like, oh, God, these guys are coming to see who they're taking with them. They're picking the boats. And then Steve Kern comes down, and he's with Danny, and asks Danny for the blueprints of his place to look through how it looks, and basically then just stole the setup, which, whatever, I mean, it is what it is. But it was like, they were leaving. They were gone. And there wasn't much we could do about it. So the circus left town, and I'm glad that OVW is still around, but man, like, you can't, I don't know if there'll ever be a time again where it's like a little territory like that has these names and talent that are on your TV the night before, and then you're there in Hodgenville, Kentucky, in a barn with 13 people, and there's CM Punk and the Crime Time. It's just like,
yeah, that's so real. Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember shortly after you left, you came back to Louisville. I think it was around I remember Ryback was there. The lights went off. Came back on. You were there. Went off. And then they came back on. I think Jacob Duncan was there. And like,
you're thinking of Anthony Pulaski, right? No, I don't think I ever did the Ryback thing. No. Not in real life. I mean, like, in real life, yeah, we used to beat the shit out of him, gang up on him. But in the ring, I don't think I ever did a Ryback thing. Jacob Duncan, which that was a bag of money on the table they left. God, I'm trying to remember. Dude, there's stuff people like. I think in that period of time, like 2007, I had to be calling more wrestling than anyone on the planet. I really do, as far as like TV 10 matches, 2 house shows, 8 matches each, DCW 10 matches for you know what I mean? I would put my and I would put my stuff up at some of those times against anyone. But I feel like you guys may have been like, yeah, I feel like OVW, if you lived there and were like grew up on it, like there were periods where you check in and check out. Because am I right on that? Because I feel like you guys saw everything.
I think after a while it got not OVW wasn't frustrating. WWE was frustrating because you would see what they're doing in Louisville and like the characters they're building, the time they're putting into it, and then like you look on TV and it's like polar opposite, and then you knew whether at that point whether it was going to stick or it wasn't going to stick, or if they were really going to invest or they weren't going to invest. They just wanted to throw someone on TV, and it was very frustrating to watch because we got to see who they were. Like we got to see Mr. Wrestling Nick Dinsmore with his Notre Dame knee pad. The Damage of the Revolution. We got to see all these people. Matt Morgan, and then they threw
Steve
him on,
Lewington.
Threw him on TV instead.
Steve Lewington.
Yes.
We used to call him Stewie. Little Stewie. Yep. He's he's a great guy. He had really small hands.
Those Burger King hands.
A body action figure. Really, like, I don't know, man. Everybody, what was you? Because I'm from an era of, I would look at my era as like the either post Jeter Capitelli or post Spirit Squad era, from like 06 to 08 is the era I was most succinctly a part of. And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's where I had the most, but everybody thinks their era was the best. But then I look at some of the booking in the past, and I'm like, it wasn't that good, man. That was kind of shitty. And then I look at the crowd, and I'm like, Donna, rest her soul, if you remember her, like, I'm like, there's nothing we could do to get Donna to really believe again. Like, we'd have to set a baby on fire. Like, there's no. Donna has seen everything.
Yeah.
Not literally, we're not going to set a baby on fire. But
oh my God.
Something crazy. Like, Donna didn't. She just said, "Go, Chris, go." And you guys saw everything, man. There was nothing that hadn't been done. So it would be funny when they do like an angle and be like, "Oh, there's medical attention." I'm like, these people, come on. Yeah, right. They've seen everything. They've seen it all. But then there'd be wild things. Like if you go out, there's just little things in during that period that are so funny to me. Like you can tell when a booker is getting. They say you should change the pencil every 6 months because you'll burn out. And Al was a tremendous booker. He was very, very good. But there were times when he got really burnt out. And one of the clear indicators of that was one time the Ox, Justin LaRouche, Bam Neely, went out in not blackface, but brownface in 2007. And I was like, oh no, we can't do, we need to have a talk with Al. He's losing it, man. And then another time, if you remember, do you remember Charles Evans?
Yep, the Hammer.
The Hammer,
Yep.
Big black guy. Oh, man, listen, he's an Army Ranger, like a shoot Army Ranger, and I'll never forget this. We're at some high school, I don't know where, maybe London, Kentucky, or something. I don't know. We're at some high school, and the gimmick was right before intermission. Charles cleaned house on the heels. And then he wanted everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And so he's a house of fire, clean house, tossing this heel over there, tossing that heel over there, fire up. He goes, all right, y'all, now can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And everybody stood, took their hats off. And he goes, I pledge allegiance to the flag. Forgot the Pledge of Allegiance. Dead quiet. Dead quiet. And we go. Like, oh, and he is just dying. Like, he's dying up there. He's like, you've never seen fear strike a big man. Like, oh my God. And he's like, the flag to another. Oh
my God.
And then I think we're like, we're gonna go. Like, I had to stop him because it was getting bro. I go, we're gonna go to a brief intermission, folks. But bro, he got up there and forgot the damn Pledge of Allegiance, and it was the funniest damn thing I've ever seen. So, just little things like that, you remember? You know what I mean? Like,
We'll have to ask him about that when we talk to him.
Say it again.
We're supposed to have an interview with him pretty soon. So
Charles Evans.
yeah.
He's great. He was like he. So, I was in Louisville. Charles did his own thing. Like, you'd see him out at like the club or 4th Street, like a Kangol hat, and he'd be like sipping like a cognac. Like, he was a grown ass man, right? But he was very stubborn. And when we went to FCW, the powers that be weren't too high on him, and he almost went nuts. And it was, for a while, it was me and Sean Spears and Charles were driving to the towns in FCW because we knew each other. And I'll never forget, Charles was getting towards the edge. It was right before he got let go. He's like, Baltimore, if you don't tell me and they let me go, I swear to God, I might come for you.
Oh no!
You're losing it, pal. You need to chill out. He would just get so frustrated. But he was, man, what a sweetheart. So funny, so good and just a big man. Like, when you interview him, ask him about the Pledge of Allegiance story.
Yes, sir.
And
for sure.
give him some breathing room to talk, because he sometimes getting his thoughts out real quick. He gets ahead of himself. But god dang, he is so funny. One of the best.
Well, once again, I want to thank you for coming on. Really do
We're
appreciate
done.
you.
Ask me something juicy. Give me something juicy.
Juicy. That's you. That's all you. You're the guy.
Come on, ask something you've always wanted to ask. Like, I don't care. If I don't want to answer it, I won't.
I don't know anything
Is
right
there
off.
anyone you want to know if they were an asshole or what they were like? Or...
I don't really. Now that I'm on the spot, now I can't think.
Right. That's one thing. Do you got one?
No.
Don't have one. Yeah. I mean, if you want to freely tell us anything, you can. But we don't dig for any type of juice or heat. We're
Stumped on my own.
What's
Pure-
that?
purely
not so much
informational.
heat. You got anything, Brian?
Stumped on my own show. I'm ashamed.
All right, I'll give you a good one. So in a wrestling locker room, it's like a lot of guys are. Not everybody gets along, as you're seeing in AEW, but there's usually a bond, especially on the level like OVW was at, where even if they're an asshole, they're your ass. Like, that's our asshole. You don't fuck with him. I mean, we lost a town in Kentucky because Punk got in a really tense verbal altercation with these shop owners who were racist towards Shad and JTG. So we lost the town there, which is hard to get mad at him for.
right. You can.
God, I have so many funny Casey James stories. Casey's a legend. He's a legend. Born 20 years too late. And so a guy I got along with just fine, but he was you could tell he was an asshole. He's a douchebag. And here was the proof for me. Again, Justin the Axl Roosh, Bam Neely. One time, I'm walking with my girlfriend at the time down on 4th Street, from one bar to another, and I feel like somebody walked by me, and it's like a rush to get out, and suddenly I feel like a big hand hit my face and pushed me backwards, like almost knocked me over. My girl catches me, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I look, and I go, hey, asshole. And he turns around, and I go, I know you. And it was Bam Neely, Justin LaRoche. He goes, oh my God, Timmy, I'm so sorry. Jesus, you okay? And I go, do you just walk around pushing shorter people out of your way around town? What the hell is wrong with you? So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just, oh my gosh.
It's just an everyday thing. Excuse me. You get the hell out of my way.
Yeah. There are so many nights, like, just great nights on, man, like, the Green Light, I remember, was an awful club. Crazy Coconuts on 7th Street. The Green Light was, oh my God, I was like, oh boy, like, bro, the tricks they could, like, oh my God, like, the Big Deal, Dan Rodheimer, do you remember him? You remember Dan Rodheimer?
He does, I know.
He was from Tough Enough, yeah.
He had that big cape, and I'll never forget one day, Danny came out of the office all pissed off, because I guess WWE told him to shit can the cape that said the Big Deal, Dan Rodheimer. And that's all he had, because he couldn't work, and he was just a big guy and had a big cape. And Danny comes out of the office one day before TV, he goes, God damn it! And kicks the chair, and what's up, Danny? He goes, they took his fucking cape! And they took his cape! Kicked it down like Danny. Jesus Christ. Oh man, Danny. Oh, you get moments like that, which is too good. Anyway, Rodheimer thought it would be funny to get Al a lap dance from the scariest of women in there once, and I was like, bro, you're just screwing yourself, because he's your coach. He's gonna give it back to you tenfold. I'm trying to think of another good one. Well, one last story I'll give you, and then I'm gone. It's not often the hosts are like, get off. It was our last show, and I showed a picture. I'd send it to you, and post. One of them's of DCW, and that one's in the bleachers. A lot of us from DCW. The other one, which I made all fancy, is OVW, and that's a who's who. If you go through it, you got Bad News Barrett, Colt Cabana, Dre Blitz, Charles Evans, Turkchin Selleck, I don't know how to pronounce that, Khalil, Victor of Ascension, the legend Casey James, Lupe. Remember Lupe? Anybody remember Lupe? Nobody remembers, but it's okay. Andrew Vane, Drew McIntyre, Sean Spears, Jay Bradley, Johnny Punch, Twinkle Toes, Justin Bam Neely, Mike Cruel, Roca, Paul Burchill, so underrated, Paul Burchill. Myself, Ray Ramsey, Jamin Olivencia, great talent, Anthony Bravado, Goose Mahoney, wonderful guy, Ali Akbar, Atlas the Bone. Do you remember Atlas the Bone?
I do.
Wow. Katie Lee Burchill, she was wonderful. Matt Seidel, wonderful. Josie, Al Snow, Reggie, very little recollection of her, and Melody, the solid gold diva. Anyway, so that photo was taken almost on the last show of OVW under WWE's tenure. So, we made sure this was like a special show, and Al booked it as this 8-man, the 4 biggest heels versus the 4 biggest baby faces, and they were kind enough at the end to do a little spot with me just to pop the house, because it was like, we're just going to go have fun. And it ended with something where Spears found himself on the ground begging off from me with my cane lifting up, and what was supposed to happen was as I'm rearing back about to hit him with it, Cruel is supposed to sneak in, come in, grab the cane, and then here comes Charles to make the save. Well, Mike Cruel he was a jokester, man. He loved a good rip. So of course Mike Cruel goes, well, what if I don't stop Timmy? What's he gonna do? Keep in mind, I have this big wooden eagle-headed cane, and can't make like what am I gonna do? Sit here and make it look phony for 10 minutes? So I'm winding up, and I hear Spears go, Mike, and I go, there it is, and then I just have to wallop him, and I'm hitting him on like these bad places, like his fingers, and it's like shit, Mike, fuck you, Mike. Mike finally scoots him by, grabs me, and he's and that was the last OVW show with WWE. So
It's so good.
yeah, it was a good time, man. It was a good time. It took it real serious, but man, what a blast! And I'm so glad you guys are delving into that, and I hope you can.
Thank you.
I hope you guys can dig out this stuff, man. Don't be afraid to confront the guests. Don't be afraid to go in and
I
ask
thank
for the
you
fun stuff.
for the advice, for helping us, for watching the product. It means a lot because I'm learning more and more people actually do watch it, or like the target audience we're going for. And we've talked off camera before. You've got to know a guy to get a guy, and people are. I feel like I'm going down the right alley with it, and that means a lot for the advice that you've given us. So I greatly appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you so
you got it. Like now I can go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
Oh, you're
Did I cut you off?
No.
No.
Stand up for yourself, damn it.
Yeah. So I mean, now I can go, and go. I was on the show. They're great. Like, it's not, it's an expose basically on you. So you get to talk about you and developmental. You guys don't ask anybody to bury anyone. I just did that freely of my own volition because it's funny to me. I don't know. But no, I really, really appreciate you guys. It's so cool to hear that, like, I'm as an announcer, I'm not like I'm grease on the spokes of the wheel. I'm a tool in the vast toolbox that the wrestlers can use to tell their story, right?
Yeah, but everybody's
the narrator of the
wrestling.
story per se, and it is also like I developed a real relationship with the fans that was usually like I had a lot of dry humor and just kind of like not like overly fawning on them, and I found that to be more rewarding because I was real with people, and when I run into guys like you guys who really give a shit and respect it, and it's like it marks the point in your life that was special to you, whether I was in it or not, but the things that I was a part of was special to you, and you think enough of it and me to ask me on. It's an honor, guys.
Thank you. Well, once again, thank you so much for being on here. And yeah, we'll definitely have to talk again in the future.
Absolutely. Go to @Timmy Baltimore on Twitter, Instagram, real name Brent Herring. I'm at MCW Pro Wrestling. I'm also working with Mickey James on some new projects. You want to see some of my best work, go to the Cody Rhodes versus Nick Aldis NWA heavyweight title match at All In 2018. I knocked it out the park there, and hopefully OVW will be hitting the network or something so we can get a good resurgence. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You guys can ride that wave.
It'd be awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
All right, stay handsome, gentlemen. Thank you.
See you later. Hey everybody, it's Morty.
It's Brian.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next
Developmentally Speaking.